this is my review of Sonic X. Okay, so this episode is the final episode of the Shadow Arc, yeah, it's just kind of the end of the whole Sonic Adventure 2 storyline that they've been running for the past several episodes. But basically, it wraps everything up into a nice little bow, sort of. I'll get to that in a minute. There's something that the games actually do explain a little bit better, but that the anime just kind of never follows up with because it ended before they could. But basically what happens is immediately after inserting the seventh Chaos Emerald into the Eclipse Cannon, instead of firing the Eclipse Cannon like it was supposed to, instead a giant message from Professor Gerald Robotnik popped up on literally every screen. He basically set it up so that it would broadcast to everything and everyone. And basically he just announces that the final preparations of his revenge have been complete, and now the Space Colony Ark is going to be pushed into orbit, into an unstable orbit of the Earth, which is going to cause the Ark to crash into the Earth and eliminate everything. And basically that's a bad thing. If you can't tell, that's basically a bad thing. So And during this sequence, Sonic and Shadow are battling, with Sonic finally getting the upper hand on Shadow and trying to get him to tell him what's going on. But as soon as the countdown starts, Shadow leaves. And also, Rouge was broadcasting her report, which does wind up bearing fruit, by the way. I'll get to that in a minute. But she submits her report to Topaz as the Space Colony Ark is beginning to crash to start its descent into the Earth. At which point everybody gathers into the control room to figure out what's going on, and also Dr. Eggman tries to snatch the Chaos Emeralds out of the machine, but they get sealed inside and are transported to the very base of the Space Colony Ark. So, yeah, that's where they wind up serving a much larger purpose. I'll get to that in a minute, but everybody gathers and tries to figure out what's going on, and even Sonic wants to work with Dr. Eggman at this point, pointing out that it wouldn't benefit them to actually be against each other at this stage. So Dr. Eggman reveals everything that's going on and shows them Professor Robotnik's diary. And as it turns out, after losing Maria, he became Gerald Robotnik just became consumed with revenge. He wanted to create Project Shadow to help aid the world, but the government got a little too paranoid with his research and had it shut down, and obviously Maria died in the process, and so he decided to become consumed with revenge. He laid out all the groundwork. He mapped out everything in his cell, and he laid it out so that everything would take place even after he was gone. And he also enlisted Shadow to help him, since he knew Shadow would carry out his orders without question. So, yeah, basically Professor Gerald Robotnik just set up this whole thing so that he could finally have his revenge and wipe out everybody, and for taking out their aggression on Maria, even though it wasn't her fault. So basically the Space Colony Ark is going to crash into the planet, and people quickly realize that there's not much to do about it. But then Dr. Eggman explains that the Chaos Emeralds have been transported into the Eclipse Cannon and have turned it into a bomb. So which is only going to make the impact a lot more dangerous when it finally hits. So, and he points out that there's no way to stop it from there. But then they realize they do have a way to stop it. Knuckles. As we've established, Knuckles has had as the episodes before have established, Knuckles has been going on a quest for the Master Emerald this whole time, and he finally has it under his grasp. So, and they quickly realize that if they can get the Master Emerald near the Chaos Emeralds, Knuckles can can communicate with the Master Emerald and shut the whole thing down. They realize they need to divide and conquer. Dr. Eggman will run up operations at the control center, and try to evacuate everybody on the off chance that they can't stop it. Meanwhile, Sonic will lead a team, and Knuckles will lead a team down to the reactor where the Chaos Emeralds are being held and try to shut things down that way. And with that, the two proceed to go forward, although Sonic and his team wind up having a bit of trouble due to the fact that Professor Gerald Robotnik kind of set up a whole bunch of traps to keep anybody from getting inside. The last one of which I will get to in a minute because it plays a major role as well that in this arc that isn't explained in the games, but it was kind of like an exclusive anime thing that they came up with. So I'll get to that in a minute. Meanwhile, Chris, Mr. Tanaka, and Amy are worried about whether or not Sonic will be able to actually stop it, and also everybody else is kind of concerned. The president himself is kind of trying to figure out a way to actually stop it, and everybody else back on Earth is a bit worried about the fact that the Space Colony Ark is now going to crash into the Earth, since Professor Gerald Robotnik kind of cast an entire thing across saying you're going to die and it's inevitable. There's no stopping it. And naturally it's going to leave everybody a little paranoid, a little bit jumpy, since they don't know if they're actually going to live to see tomorrow. It isn't all bad though. Thanks to Dr. Eggman hacking into Gun's central systems, as well as Rouge's report, they're able to conclude that there was indeed a cover-up within their ranks and have the subsequent agents arrested. So now everybody who was trying to cover up Project Shadow is in custody. And also because of Scarlet Garcia's news thing that she did with Mr. Stewart, she was able to broadcast all of the information out to everybody else so that they would know the information as well, and the full truth about Project Shadow comes out. They also know that Sonic is innocent because of that, and now everybody is rooting for Sonic to actually stop the Space Colony Ark from crashing into the planet. But in any case, Chris and Mr. Tanaka and Amy are the ones that are of chief's concern, because they're concerned as to whether or not Sonic will be able to stop the Space Colony Ark from crashing in time, at which point Shadow shows up and points out that they won't. And Chris decides to appeal to Shadow's better nature and basically try to talk him down and get him to help save the Earth, with some mixed results. Chris points out that it isn't right, that it really isn't right for the fact that that Shadow is blaming people for something that happened 50 years ago, and Shadow rebuts that he shouldn't talk to him about fair, since Maria was his only friend and she was killed. So he knows a bit about what's not fair. But then Chris points out that if Maria were still even if Shadow pursues his revenge, it's not going to bring Maria back, and that he should honor and that she would most likely, if she were alive, want Shadow to actually make friends with everybody down on the surface and actually try to help them and save them and be their friend. And this is what finally gets through to Shadow, since it was indeed her last words to him before she died and he was ejected from the Space Colony Ark. At which point he's moved to tears and decides to help Chris, Sonic and the others stop the countdown and keep the Space Colony Ark from crashing. And with that, he goes to where the Chaos Emeralds are being held. Meanwhile, Sonic and his team arrive at the main room, energy room, where I guess the generator. I'm not entirely sure what you would call it, but basically it looks like a mockery of the Master Emerald Shrine. It's built in the exact same way, but it's mechanical. But in any case, they arrive there, and it's revealed what the original life form that Shadow was based on actually was. As it turns out, it's a large creature called the Bio-Lizard, which doesn't look a thing like Shadow, but has all of his powers. And it's heavily implied that this creature is what it was the original prototype for Project Shadow, and then Shadow himself was the end result of that project. So, yeah, it's never outright stated in the episode, but it's implied that Dr. Gerald Robotnik retrieved the creature to aid in his revenge and guard the Chaos Emeralds in case anything were to happen and also to serve as a failsafe to prevent the chaos, so that the Revenge would go off without a hitch. And I'll get to that in a minute as well. But basically, the creature isn't too happy about the fact that that Sonic and his friends are trying to stop the Space Colony Ark from crashing, and tries to battle them. At which point Shadow shows up and decides to aid in the fight by basically distracting them long enough for. Basically, he distracts the Bio-Lizard long enough for Knuckles to do his thing and shut down the Chaos Emeralds, and it works. Shadow is able to hold its attention long enough for Knuckles to place the Master Emerald in the center of the shrine that Professor Robotnik built, and appeals to the Master Emerald to have the Chaos Emeralds drained of their power so that they would no longer be a threat. And it works. They all shut down and they all collapse to the floor. But then the Bio-Lizard disappears using Chaos Control, and Dr. Eggman reveals that the creature has actually merged with the Space Colony Ark and is continuing to use its own power to pull the Space Colony Ark the rest of the way, so that it actually fulfills its mission and crashes into the Earth. At which point, Sonic and Shadow realize the only way they're going to do that is by using a Super State, and they proceed to use the Chaos Emerald's energy to become Super Sonic and Super Shadow, and by which point they teleport outside the Space Colony Ark and proceed to do battle with the now merged with the Space Colony Ark Bio-Lizard. And the two proceed to battle it, which is seen from space, and people realize that Sonic is most likely fighting it, and basically public opinion about him begins to turn around, as well as Shadow, because Shadow has done his fair share of bad stuff in this arc, and he's kind of finally redeeming himself here. So this is a big moment for him as well. But unfortunately, they do manage to destroy the Bio-Lizard, but aren't able to actually stop the Space Colony Ark from crashing, since it's already within an unstable orbit and is already beginning to hurtle to the Earth. At which point, with prompting from several of the characters in a bit of everybody shouting their name, which is kind of like an anime trope, if you don't know. It's a very popular one. It's one that a lot of writers like to use, where everybody shouts their name at the same time, and it gives them the fuel they need to finally save the day. And Sonic X doesn't shy away from that at all. That's what the scene is, where they finally stop the Space Colony Ark. They're fueled by their friends calling out to them, and they use their super states to create one big blast of chaos control that returns the Space Colony Ark to its original orbit. And with that, the day is saved and everybody is happy. But there is one notable thing. So after Sonic and Shadow save the world, Dr. Eggman points out that Professor Robotnik was his inspiration and is the reason he kind of wants to take over the world, I guess. He always admired what kind of the scientific minds that his grandfather had, and even though he plans to conquer the world rather than destroy it, he does want to kind of live up to his grandfather's expectations and one day prove to the world that he is just as smart, if not more smart, than his grandfather. And with that, he leaves on a shuttle, although he does extend one offer for everybody else to help him conquer the world, which they obviously refuse. At which point Sonic returns to the Space Colony Ark, and Chris notably asks where Shadow is, since he was the one who finally got through to Shadow, and so he should be the one to know who his final fate is, what his final fate is. But and while Shadow winds up being alive and well in the games, the anime doesn't make that as clear cut. All it says is that Shadow disappeared at some point while putting the Space Colony Ark back in its rightful place, and he was never heard from again. Nobody knows what happened to him. Nobody knows where he is. He just disappeared, and now nobody can find him. So, yeah. But after taking a minute to mourn Shadow, everybody goes home, with Sonic responding with "Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog" before leaving. So, yeah, I should bring this up. Nobody in the games, Shadow is eventually revealed to be alive and well, and was even cloned a couple of times. But basically there was an entire trilogy-ish of games starring Shadow the Hedgehog, which all told his backstory and all showed how he eventually decides to accept himself and become an anti-hero, I guess. But the anime never brings this up. It only ever shows him in this one arc and then never again. He disappears entirely from the story. But in any case, yeah. So yeah, that's the end of the Project Shadow arc, I guess is what it's called. And while it does end with everybody being happy and Sonic finally being alleviated of his crimes, the president's secretary does try to stick him with one last crime, which is basically violating air and space laws. But Sam Speed persuades her not to, since as he points out, it wouldn't make the voters very happy. So, and the president agrees, so she drops it. But yeah, in any case, that's my review of Sonic X, and that's the end of the Project Shadow arc, so we're going to be going into a new arc next week. But in any case, yeah, that's my review of Sonic X. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I'm always saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!